Welcome to the League of Women Voters North Andover Candidates Forum. We are coming to you live from the North Andover CAM Community Media Center here at 70 Main Street. Brian Frazier, Gabby Griffiths, Bill Robert, Jonah Perlow, and the volunteers here are happy to have you as visitors, so anyone can become a member of NACAM and support the work they do here. They offer many programs for students and adults alike. The crew, but also volunteers, make shows happen. So the doors are open, so stop in anytime or feel free to set up an appointment here at NACAM. In fact, our local league is a member. They will be hosting some youth workshops during April vacation from 9 to 3, each day consisting of different media themes. You can sign up on their website, northandovercam.org, under Youth Workshops and Classes. And they are also on the lookout for volunteer producers for various North Andover productions. Not only is it a great resume builder, but it's also a great opportunity to learn camera techniques, leadership skills, and a fun way to support your local community. You can get involved by visiting their website or emailing them, members@northandovercam.org. And we definitely couldn't do this without them, so we are grateful. The League of Women Voters, on the other hand, is a 103-year-old, nonpartisan, grassroots political organization for everyone, which encourages informed and active participation in government. Tonight's forum is part of our voter education efforts. You can join us by visiting our website. You can also donate there, where you can also find information about this year's town election by visiting us under the Voter Information tab on our website. You can join the League, and you can also like the League of Women Voters of Andover, North Andover Facebook page, Facebook group. And you can contact us through email, league@lwv-andovers.org. We have received many questions from the public, including many from the 8th graders, again at the North Andover Middle School, who are studying civics this year, and from the high school government class. So we'd like to thank Principal George Gonsalves, Patrick McGravy, and the 8th grade staff and students, as well as Principal Jackson, Diane Freymuth, and her students. You will hear some of their questions this evening, as well as questions from citizens who have sent them in via email. And if you are watching live at home, you can also send us questions. There should be an email address on the bottom of your screen, but it is lwvanaquestions@gmail.com. So please, if you're watching at home, send us some questions. Questions must apply to all candidates for a particular board, and we will try to ask as many questions and cover as many topics as we can, but we also plan on sharing all of our questions with the candidates, so they may choose to address those at later times on social media pages or during upcoming events. And I would always, as usual, encourage you to reach out to the candidates themselves if you would like to ask your questions personally. On that note, unfortunately, we are unable to show the candidates for the North Andover Housing Authority. I'm going to read you the mission statement of the Housing Authority, as stated on their website, northandoverha.com. We are dedicated to serving the housing needs of the community. Our mission is to promote adequate, safe, and affordable housing, economic opportunities, and a suitable living environment free from discrimination. The NAHA strives to create neighborhoods where residents continue to be a valuable part of the community. It's been many years since we've had a contested race for North Andover Housing Authority. There is one seat, a 5-year seat, and there are two contestants, two candidates. Jacqueline McGuire and Marcia Finkelstein, who are running for that seat, were both offered the opportunity to participate tonight. Jacqueline McGuire respectfully declined our invitation. Thus, in order to remain in FCC and IRS compliance and avoid an empty chair situation, we are unable to show the Housing Authority segment. Marcia Finkelstein did give her statement here tonight prior to going live to our studio audience. Thus, we would encourage you, the voters, to do your homework. Reach out to both candidates, whom you can contact at the email addresses, which are hopefully going to be listed on your screen. With any questions you have, look them up online, and then head to the polls knowing for whom you will vote on March 28th. Couple other quick facts, and then I promise we'll get started. In case you didn't know, North Andover currently has 22,156 registered voters in North Andover. Did you know that last year, only 2,306 people determined the outcome of our local election? Did you know that only 1,420 people attended and voted at town meeting last year and decided the town's business? Those small numbers of people who show up and they're making all the decisions for our community. So imagine if closer to the 22,000 people showed up to vote. Keep in mind that your vote is truly your voice. Local elections matter, town meeting matters, and they have a direct impact on all of us. So we hope tonight's forum inspires you not only to vote on March 28th, but we hope you will consider attending and voting at town meeting on May 16th, and maybe even get a little more involved in our community. So thank you all for being here, and we will now begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise as you are willing and able. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. And I will now introduce our moderator for this evening, Joanne Berry, who is a member of the Acton Area League of Women Voters. She is also on the League of Women Voters of Massachusetts Board of Directors and serves as the Acton Town Moderator. So we are happy to have such an experienced moderator with us this evening. Joanne?
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening. As Heather said, I am Joanne Berry, and this is North Andover's local elections will be held Tuesday, March 28th, in case you forgot that date when Heather just said it a few minutes ago, at the North Andover High School. Voters will be choosing 2 members of the Select Board, 2 school committee members, 1 member of the North Andover Housing Authority, and 1 member of the Greater Lawrence Technical School District Committee. Tonight's schedule will be as follows. First, we will hear from the unopposed candidates for the Greater Lawrence Technical School District Committee, or GLTS, and the Select Board. And then we will hear from the school committee candidates. We'll begin the forum by presenting a brief segment filmed earlier this week by William Tarbox, who is running unopposed for the GLTS District Committee. The duties of this committee include developing policies, employing a superintendent, evaluating the effectiveness of policies that are implemented, adopting a budget, communicating information from the school district to the public and from the public to the school district, and establishing educational goals. You can find out more at www.glts.net and looking under the District Committee tab. Here is William Tarbox.
Good afternoon. My name is Bill Tarbox. I'm a resident of North Andover, have lived in this community for 41 years. My wife's name is Gail, and I have a son, Fred, a daughter, Jana, and a daughter, Jennifer, and they've all gone through the North Andover school system. I am going to be running for the position for school committee for Greater Lawrence Technical School on 57 River Road in Andover. There are 4 communities involved in that school district. Andover has 1 committee member, North Andover will have 1, Methuen has 2, and Lawrence has 3. In 1963 was the groundbreaking of the school. The school is now almost 60 years old, and we are moving forward to 1965. Greater Lawrence opened its doors for the first time. It was open, and we had a school for initially just boys attending. There were 357 boys at that school at that time, and there were 10 technical trades, auto body, automotive, carpentry, electrical, electronics, just to name a few. In 1968, it was the first graduating class. In 1972 through 2006, I started my career as a teacher and soccer coach at that school. And I worked at that school for 34 years. Thus, I am planning to go back and join the school committee at this present time. In 1972, they expanded the school from 10 trades to 16 trades. Some of the trades at this new era of time were business technology, dental assisting, health assisting, medical assisting, to name a few. In 2023, the building is expanding and moving forward, and now will have 21 technical trades, such as robotics, aviation, dental assisting, environmental science, HVAC. In 1956, this was the vision of my father. My father is the first person in the area to start a technical school. We lived in Andover, and I was 7 years old at that time. My father ran a machine shop in Lawrence, and he realized he had a difficult time getting tradespeople with the skill. And he said to himself, you know, we've got to start with education and the youth of this area to upgrade the opportunities to create technical skills for high school students. Thus, that was his image, that was his vision at that time. And there are now 36 technical high schools in Massachusetts. There are 37,000 students receiving this form of education in these schools in Massachusetts. I look forward to representing North Andover as the school committee person from our town, and also that I taught there for 34 years. It seems to be appropriate to go back and join that group to see the advancements and advantages that these students will now have moving forward. Thank you very much.
All right. Moving onward, we will now continue live here in the studio with candidates for Select Board, Laura Bates and Brian Roache. If any audience members have questions for the Select Board, please submit them now, and you can also submit them over email if you're watching from home at lwvanaquestions@gmail.com, and there it is right on the screen. So let us begin with a 2-minute opening statement. Ms. Bates.
Thank you. When I sat before you 3 years ago, I said to you, we are one community. And today, I believe that even more strongly. I've worked with many people who have differing opinions, ideas, and thoughts, but we've come together for what is best for North Andover. That is the job, and it would be my honor to serve you for another term. We have accomplished a lot. We worked together for COVID. We supported our seniors, our school-age children, and our small businesses. One of my most proud moments is advocating for Facilities Master Plan 2. It will meet some of the dire needs of our schools, Fire Station 2, and the youth center, and will have a generational impact on our children. It is important to me to see all these projects through, and I will continue to strengthen our relationship with the school committee so that we can see those projects through. The Stevens Estate is an example of us working together. Everybody had different opinions, but we came together to make for the betterment of our town's treasured landmark. With the support of residents, we were able to purchase 400 Great Pond Road, and that is how we were able to protect our drinking water, our lake and our drinking water. We have lots to do. I will continue to focus on the revitalization of downtown. We are still impacted by Columbia Gas, and we need to make sure that all those paving projects are completed and that money is spent wisely so that we can improve our sidewalks and traffic calming measures. And we have also been impacted by the rising cost of electrical rates, and I will continue to make sure that we get good rates with the community aggregate power program. And what's most important is that we take care of each other, and that's what makes our one community special, and it's what makes us North Andover. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Roache.
Good evening. I believe we can accomplish so much as a community if we have common goals and choose to move forward together. And that's why I'm running for Select Board, not just to add my voice to the discussion, but to make sure that all of yours are heard as well. And I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters and North Andover CAM for giving us a venue to do exactly that, to have a conversation about priorities, about how we can move forward together as one community. As an active community member, I've coached various sports, I've taught CCD, I've served in the Atkinson PTO, and I volunteer at the Friends of North Andover Trails. I spent 5 years as a den leader and cub master at Cub Scout Pack 89. And I spent the last 6 years as a member of the Community Preservation Committee, having been voted chair in 2020. I'm running to increase my commitment to serving this town and open a dialogue about how we're going to tackle the many challenges that we're likely to face in the coming years. As a member of the Select Board, my priorities will be to ensure that our schools are properly funded to carry out and supported to carry out their mission beyond just level services. I'll take steps to address housing affordability in town so that we have a community our seniors can afford to stay in and our children can afford to return to. And I'll protect North Andover's character through continued investment in open space, a more revitalized downtown area, and a smart growth approach to new development. Lastly, I'll maintain our strong fiscal standing while also providing quality roads, continued public safety, and programs for our seniors and youth. I think it's important that we envision a future for North Andover that meets the needs of all its residents, and that all families have the opportunity to participate in everything that this town has to offer. I'm committed to having an open and transparent dialogue with residents to hear about what is most impactful to them and their families. I'm asking for your vote and for you to be a part of that dialogue. I look forward to our conversation this evening about how we can move our community forward together.
Thank you. Here's the first question submitted by a resident, or potentially more than one, because questions do get combined and edited. One of the ongoing goals of the Select Board is to maintain and improve our fiscal discipline and AAA bond rating. Talk about one thing we are doing well or something you think we need to do better to address in regard to money management. Mr. Roache.
I think the town manager, first and foremost, has done an excellent job in helping to guide the Select Board to get us to this remarkably strong fiscal standing. I think it's important that we evaluate the sources of revenue that we're going to receive in the coming years, whether that's through primarily through new growth, and we need to do that in a responsible way. There's only a couple of ways that we're actually going to get new revenue into the community now, and I think it's important to evaluate that.
Thank you. Ms. Bates.
So I would say that working with the town manager, she, again, does a wonderful job working on the budget and making sure that it's sustainable for taxpayers. And I think she showed that, or we showed that, through the plan for Facilities Master Plan 2, and what a thoughtful plan that was, so that we can not impact our taxpayers and we can get all these projects done. And what's most important too is, like Brian said, we have two sources of income. We have it from our residents and from new growth. And we want to make sure that we are able to provide services for our residents, and we need to make sure that the debt that we take on balances what our revenue is.
Thank you. Next question, also from resident. The Select Board determines how the tax burden is shared between residential, commercial, industrial, and personal properties. What factors do or would you consider as you prepare for this vote? Ms. Bates.
Every year, that's a difficult conversation that we have as a board, and we take into consideration the impact of our residents and the businesses that would have to, what their tax burden will be. And we try to be cognizant of making sure that that is equally shared. Whatever that increase is that it's equally shared to the best of our ability. We're probably about 80% of revenues coming in from our residents, so we need to be careful about how we do put the tax burden on our businesses and our residents. And I think that that's the most important thing that we need to look at.
Mr. Roache.
I agree with Laura. I think it's a really careful balance that we need to try to achieve as we look at this. With such a high burden on the residents already, and we have a diverse demographic background within this town right now, tax increases on some of the more modest incomes in town can be really burdensome. So I think we need to create a business-friendly environment to attract businesses to help grow that portion of our tax base to ease the burden on those residents. But you really have to look at the balance and make sure that you're getting the most bang for your buck as we do evaluate this budget.
Thank you. Our next question from a resident. It may be a short answer. I don't know. How would you vote on a potential plastic bag ban? Mr. Roache?
I've studied it briefly, and I would likely vote in favor based on what's proposed today.
Thank you.
I
Ms. Bates?
also would vote in favor. I think one of the most important things is that the article has taken into account smaller businesses so that the financial impact, they can do it voluntarily, and the bigger companies have done it in multiple communities. And I think it's prudent to teach our children that, these little steps are important to help our environment.
Thank you. Next question. This apparently came in from several different people. Given all that you have heard from residents and businesses about the development taking place in town, what do you think are the most pressing housing and commercial needs in North Andover? Ms. Bates.
So it's really difficult conversation to have about development. However, I think the most important thing is to think about smart growth, and that it should be in the locations that are meant for that, near our major roads, and we need to provide more housing, for more affordable housing. We are in a housing crisis in the state of Massachusetts, and I think that we just need to make sure that it's in line with the master plan and our vision for our one community, so that we can do what's best for our town and keep within the character of our town, and that we can move forward together, because change is happening and change will come, and I think it's important that we have a seat at the table and that we participate in those conversations.
Thank you. Mr. Roache.
Yeah, I mean, it's no secret that this region is facing a housing crisis, and North Andover alone is not going to solve this challenge, but it is an opportunity for us to show leadership, to show that you can have housing growth, you can grow your housing stock and provide affordable housing while maintaining that balance in protecting open space, ensuring that projects are in the areas that are most appropriate, where infrastructure can support them, where you can have a live, work, play environment. That's part of how I would envision a revitalized downtown area. And with residents come businesses, and you have residents to support those businesses, you have residents to work in those businesses, but those workers need to have a place that they can live affordably. And that's really, really important. Right now, it's a supply issue as I see it.
Thank you. As also a part of this question, how do you envision downtown redevelopment? Mr. Roache.
I see it as a part of our town that should really have a vibrance of all day parts right now. I think you need to have people who live there. I think you need people who can work there. And I think it needs to be a place where our community can come on the evenings. If you look at what we've done in the Mill District, the restaurants are crowded. They're doing all tremendously well. But it should be walkable, it should be active, and it should be vibrant. It really should be an enclave that is uniquely North Andover, that a place that we all can be proud of. People may say, hey, you go to downtown Andover, or you want to be whatever other town. People should be saying, I want to come to North Andover because I want to have a nice night out. I want to be able to work there. I want to be able to live there.
Thank you. Ms. Bates?
So I agree. I think that our downtown needs to be a place where we want to shop and we want to dine, and it has to be, somewhere people want to come to. And that has to be done in a thoughtful manner. We need to do it, and we need to work with the developers as we redevelop some of these parcels and make sure that it's in line with our master plan and with the vision that we all have for North Andover. But it is going to take some revitalization, some changes to the sidewalks, some changes to the roadways, some changes to the buildings, so that we can attract those businesses and those restaurants, and that so we can say, yes, let's stay in town, let's spend that money in town, and let's keep those revenues in town.
Okay, and then we have a few follow-up specifics from the North Andover students who are interested in knowing about some of the particulars. As the town has reimagined playgrounds and is now looking at a fields master plan, would you support a dog park in town? Ms. Bates.
So I would absolutely support a dog park. We are actually the owners of a new puppy, so she would enjoy that. And I think it's a asset to have in town. It's attractive to people, somewhere that they can bring their dogs, where they can walk them, where they can play and interact with other dogs. So I think it's definitely a benefit to have in town.
Mr. Roache?
Not being a dog owner, but being a dog lover, I would absolutely support a dog park in an area that's appropriate. I was actually in Atlanta this week and saw a very large dog park right in the middle of their city. It had a restaurant attached to it. It had a bar. It was very, very active. It served as a hub. And there's no reason that we can't have that same sort of vibrant anchor for all of the residents in town to whether it's downtown or somewhere else. I would absolutely support it.
Thank you. Does or should this plan include improving athletic fields, Mr. Roache?
So I've sat on the Community Preservation Committee, and we recently we've evaluated a number of different fields that have been funded. I think that certainly the middle school fields project is one that's that we're very proud to have supported, and hopefully it's going to get resolved soon. I do think that athletic fields are critical. There's so many youth in this town who use them. We have a need for field space, and I'm glad that we're evaluating it. Very similar to the way that we did the playground master plan as a part of the Community Preservation Committee, where over a period of 6 years we renovated 12 playgrounds with all brand new equipment in partnership with local PTOs. There's no reason we can't do the same thing with our fields.
Ms. Bates?
Thank you, and I completely agree. I was a big advocate for the Fields Master Plan study, and it gave us an opportunity to see what we have and what we need, and the fields are used constantly, and we're in a spot right now where the fields can't rest, which I didn't realize was a thing, but they need to rest. And so I think the master plan gives us an opportunity to invest in the fields that need to be invested in and expand them. And this is another investment in our children and in what they're doing. My kids use the baseball fields, the soccer fields, the lacrosse fields, so we're always there. And I think that, again, it's another asset to our community. So I fully support that.
And the final thing, the students are interested in, would you support a free public pool, Ms. Bates?
That's a tricky one. I think in theory I would, but I also understand being on the town side what a liability and expense that is. So I think it was something, I actually found out that there was one at the Stevens Estate at some point. But I think that that's really hard for the town, just as a liability and an expense. So it would be something that we would have to really look into.
And I agree with Laura. That is it's a bit of a loaded question with the free part of it, the public part of it, and it would definitely need to be studied more. But I would certainly approach it with an open mind and hopefully find a way that something could be achieved that would balance all the needs.
Thank you. Our final question before we go to closing statements, also sent in from residents. Given recent conversations about Merrimack College in relation to the Royal Crest development and safety along Route 114, how would you characterize the town's relationship with the school, or how would you work to maintain or improve that relationship? Ms. Bates.
So I believe that having Merrimack College is a great asset to the town, but they are a large stakeholder. We need to work collaboratively with them so that we both benefit from what's happening. And I think that there's still some work to do, and we need to improve those relationships, and we need to make sure that when they are expanding, that we are working with them to make sure that it's not impactful to our community, and that we are doing what's best. We are making sure that our interests as a town are taken care of, and especially with the 114 corridor, I've been a huge advocate of making sure that those sidewalks are built and that the intersections are improved, and that not only for the safety of our residents, but for the students of Merrimack College as they're coming up and down 114 going to their classes. We need to make sure that everyone is safe.
Thank you.
I think it's a little difficult maybe to characterize the relationship, having not sat across the table from them or dealt with them, but I do know what I've heard from voters. I've been having discussions, and that's the relationship could be improved, at least from a perception of the voters' standpoint. Merrimack sits at our front door, right? They are not in our community; they're a part of our community, and I think it's important that we all work together. They've certainly got goals and objectives, and they need to recognize that we have goals and objectives as well, and neither one of us is going anywhere, so we really have to work together as one community because they really are so impactful as a part of our town. So.
Thank you. That brings us to closing statements. You each have 1 minute. Mr. Roache.
As you've heard this evening, there are many issues that will face our community in the coming years, both known and unknown. No matter what comes our way, our future is bright if we choose to move forward together. Now, we may not always agree on the best way to improve our schools, address housing affordability, protect town character, and maintain fiscal discipline. But I think we can all agree that these are good goals, and if we work together, we can find common ground on how to achieve them. I aim to lead that effort. Through my volunteer work with various organizations, I've seen what great things we can accomplish as one community. In fact, I've literally cleared paths and built bridges, and that's what I'll intend to do as a member of the Select Board. I believe you share these values, and I know you want to live in a community that makes its decisions through conversation, not through conflict. So I'm asking for your vote on March 28th to start that process, but more importantly, I'm asking you to join that conversation. Reach out to us online or through social media. I'm eager to hear about your ideas for our future and our continued conversations about how we move forward together.
Thank you. Ms. Bates.
Thank you. Thank you to the League of Women Voters and for North Andover CAM for having us this evening. As an engineer and a mother of 2 young children, I bring a unique perspective to the board. I have listened intently and worked collaboratively with other boards, committees, and residents, and I will continue to bring the members of our one community together to make certain that all ideas and opinions are heard and ensure that we are always doing what is best for North Andover. Thank you, and I ask for your vote on March 28th.
Thank you. And now the school committee candidates could come forward.
My name is Dawn Warren, and I'm the town clerk in North Andover. The annual town election will be held on Tuesday, March 28th. The last day to register to vote is Saturday, March 18th, and Town Hall will be open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Registration is easy. You can visit the Secretary of the Commonwealth's website to register online with a valid Massachusetts driver's license or state-issued ID card, or stop by the town clerk's office and register in person. The last day to request a mail-in ballot for the annual town election is Tuesday, March 21st. Ballots must be returned to the town clerk's office no later than 8 p.m. on Election Day. Voters can also vote in person at the town clerk's office during regular business hours until noontime the day before the election. Accessible vote-by-mail ballots are available for certain voters. If you are blind or have a vision impairment, have a mobility or dexterity disability, or have another disability that makes it difficult for you to mark your paper ballot, you can request an accessible vote-by-mail ballot from the town clerk. All precincts vote at North Andover High School, located at 430 Osgood Street. The polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Thank you. And we are back with our 3 candidates for school committee. If any audience members have questions for the school committee, please submit them now. If you are at home watching, you can submit questions to lwvanaquestions@gmail.com. Please remember that all questions must apply to all candidates for the position. All right, so we will begin. I will ask, each of you will do your opening statement. I'll mix up the order that I ask the questions since there's 3 of you, so you're not always first or last. So let's go ahead with 2-minute opening statements. Mr. Brown.
Thank you. I want to let everyone know tonight that accountability matters. We need to remember this is all about our kids and ensuring they get the resources that they need. There's a chain of accountability. It starts with the school committee being accountable to you, the citizens. The committee holds the administration accountable for their performance, and they, of course, their staff and the students ultimately. You'll hear me speak often and loudly about transparency and performance. I'm a management professional. I understand how boards work and what their relationship is to management, in this case, administration. I've served in both those roles, and I bring that experience with me. When elected, I will work harder than anyone to ensure our schools perform at the highest levels. Wherever we fall short of those goals, I'll hold the administration accountable for that and work with them to see how they plan to achieve the levels that they need. I'll be fully transparent to the legal extent possible to all our stakeholders so they don't wonder what the schools are doing and why. I'm running to serve the families and the citizens of North Andover. I have no preconceived bias or agendas, no interest in culture wars. I'm not going to favor one school over another one. I'm not here to push my ideology or my views. I only want one thing, and that's the best education for our children. We need to serve all of our students, not just the high achievers. It's our duty to our families. After all, it's a fundamental civil right. It's the heart and soul of a community. Advocacy is a fundamental part of the service of a school committee, and this is what the RAISE principles and the framework are actually all about. North Andover served my family very well. My 3 kids attended North Andover schools, K through 12, the youngest very recently. I'm a proud parent, and I share that perspective with you. I want to continue to give back to the community that served us so well. I've demonstrated sincere and ongoing support through the years I've lived here. I want to be sure we serve everyone well. I want to stress that accountability really matters, and I'll bring that to the committee, insist on transparency and continuous improvement. Remember, it's all about what's best for our kids, and I ask for your vote March 28th, and thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dube?
Hi. Thank you, everyone. I'd like to thank Heather, Joanne, the League of Women Voters, and North Andover CAM. My name is Kevin Dube, and I'm proud to appear before you tonight as your candidate for school committee. In the wake of COVID, some troubling things have come to light in our nation's public schools. Sadly, North Andover is not exempt from these issues. Curriculum elements utilizing lessons steeped in critical race theory have made their way into our classrooms. Our elementary school libraries contain numerous books on gender identity, including one which states, quote, "My pronouns are like the weather. They change depending how I feel." Our district has promoted a number of social justice professional development programs for our teachers, including a study group for the book White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo. In this book, the author states, quote, "A positive white identity is an impossible goal. White identity is inherently racist. White people do not exist outside the system of white supremacy." Our Social and Emotional Learning Department, using the Collaborative for Academic and Social and Emotional Learning Program, or CASEL. CASEL's president states, quote, "We see SEL as a tool for anti-racism, as a lever for equity, and the critical role it can play in achieving those goals." What does that have to do with our children's emotional health? Finally, on the school's website is a link for a parent university. Under the heading for Equity and Anti-Racism, we find the book Not My Idea, a book about whiteness, being recommended to elementary school kids. This book includes a, quote, "contract binding you to whiteness," which states, quote, "You get stolen land, stolen riches, and special favors, in exchange for whiteness getting to mess endlessly with the lives of your friends, neighbors, loved ones, and all fellow humans of color, as well as whiteness getting your soul." What exactly are the priorities of our school district and the administration in promoting these things? I believe we need to get back to basics, a solid, agenda-free education. Please see my website, electdube.com, for much more detailed information on these topics. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Koenig?
Thank you. I want to bring my advocacy skills and unique perspective as a parent to help our school committee in the group effort to make our schools better, and that is why I'm running for school committee. It's vital to recognize that the role of the school committee is to advocate for our children. It's not a place for culture wars or a forum for anything else than to advocate to make our schools better. I bring no predetermined ideology or opinions, only advocacy for the best interests of our students. And that includes an inclusive and safe environment in which our children can learn and thrive. As a parent of 4 children, ages 4 to 22, I understand that educational experience is unique to each and every child, and my experience provides a unique perspective that makes me well suited to serve our community as a member of the school committee. As a civil litigation attorney here in North Andover, I possess the skills necessary to make a difference in serving our community on the school committee. That includes drafting legal policy, advocating for policy change, and advocating for clients. As we move forward with improvement and construction on our schools, I'll work to make sure our school projects are on track and that we're working collaboratively with the other town boards to make sure it is a smooth process. I'll advocate for future needs, making sure we're prepared and in tune with those needs. And I'll continue to make transparency with the school committee a priority to ensure open and honest communication with all stakeholders. As a parent and an advocate, I bring the perspective, experience, and pure desire to continue to improve our school for our community and for our children. And I hope that through today, you will see that I am the advocate for your children and your advocate for the school committee.
Thank you. Our first question, submitted by residents. What would be 2 of your top budget directives for the school system's budget? Mr. Dube.
2 top budget directives would be to,
Yeah, sorry. I thought that was, never mind. Your time starts now.
sorry, finding and hiring the best possible educators for our students, and promoting a environment in which we have the best learning experiences for everyone. That's about it.
Thank you. Ms. Koenig.
I think that one of the major things we need to focus on is making sure that our children, each and every one of them, have the educational resources they need, from our special education children to those who thrive in other learning environments. We have special needs that we need to address, especially coming out of COVID, where there's social economic issues and that need to be addressed in our classroom. So I think we need to advocate for those resources. We also need to make sure, as we're budgeting, that we're keeping our building progress on track, that we're looking at making sure that we are finding funds as best we can to make sure we push forward the reconstructions of our schools so that our kids can have that learning environment in which they can thrive successfully. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Yes, so I believe there's 2 important things, but there are many important things, but probably the 2 most important things are making sure we have the staff, particularly in light of the COVID recovery, to serve to close the gaps that have been created over the past couple of years. So we have to make sure we continue to fund that, which will, there'll be a need that will continue for many years. And then another one would be facilities improvements. A lot of our we have a good start on that with the new construction plan, but the schools that are right behind those that need help, are going to need help sooner rather than later. So I want to work hard to try to get the funding that we need to make improvements to all of the schools.
Thank you. Next question, also submitted by residents. How would you work to make the school committee and administration accountable for and transparent when it comes to school finances? Ms. Koenig.
Thank you. It's not easy to hold people accountable, but accountability starts at the top and it trickles down. So I believe making sure that we're holding everyone accountable from the top, trickling down, on making sure that our students are getting the resources that we need, that we're advocating for our students and putting them at the forefront, is absolutely the most important thing we can do. And then adding into that transparency so that our students and our parents and all stakeholders in our community know that we are using the resources in the most responsible manner to advocate for our children, to make sure that they are getting the best education possible, making sure that we are being open, honest, and that we are addressing questions as they come to us so that we are making sure we're advocating in the best possible ways for our children.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
So accountability is my theme. It's a chain of accountability. It starts with me as a school committee member, and it goes from there throughout the committee, through the superintendent, as I said earlier, down all the way to the students. It's really, really critical. And as has been stated, transparency is a critical part of that. I think one thing we can specifically do better is in our communications to citizens. We could be more detailed in our answers. We could be a little bit more specific when questions are asked from the community, and we could probably improve the public input section of the meetings as well.
Thank you. Mr. Dube.
Hi. Yes, I think the first thing that we can do for accountability, number one, the school committee is the ultimate arbiter. They can set all policies for the district and really are the bosses. They're in charge. So they can make sure that the accountability happens, and that's where the buck stops. The first thing for accountability, I think, is that we need to make sure we have a rigorous and agenda-free curriculum, and we need to make sure our budget is set such that it takes care of the needs of all of our stakeholders, and especially the taxpayers of our community. With regards to transparency, I would like to see open and honest communication as much as humanly possible, both between teachers and parents, administration and the community, and as well as the school committee. And I think the school committee needs to be affirmatively engaging of the stakeholders, several of the parent groups around town, and make sure that they remain engaged at all times. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question came from several students and citizens. Oh, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to clarify that, yes, it is absolutely that the school committee sets policy, but we also have to remember that there are also constraints within the law and state mandates that have to be followed. So although the school committee does have the ability to set policy, there are some restraints, but I think it is best the policies that we do have control over, that we're using them in the best possible ways to advocate for our children.
Thank you. Now the next question, which came from several students and residents. Questions about mental health and well-being in our schools were a common topic in many questions we received, the league. What specific resources and support do you believe are necessary to promote positive mental health outcomes for all students? Mr. Brown.
So mental health, big issue. There are many resources in place already. School psychologists, guidance counselors, program therapists, and so forth in the schools. What I would suggest that we do, or what I would plan to do, is meet with the current staff, get their assessments of what the situation is, see what they feel the needs are. I'd meet with concerned parents. I'd review everything, and then analyze and recommend changes.
Thank you. Mr. Dube.
The mental health situation is of paramount concern amongst our school district. I think the first and foremost thing we need to do is look at the needs of every individual student as they come for services. Each student is unique. Each student has a unique experience, and we need to address those unique experiences. As Mr. Brown said, I think that we should engage with parent groups and others that have stakeholders in students with higher mental health needs and make sure we affirmatively address those. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Koenig.
I have a very firsthand personal perspective as a parent when it comes to mental health in our children and in our schools. And there aren't enough resources to address mental health, but I'm not sure that we could ever have enough resources to address the mental health within our schools. It's a big issue and it's a big problem. And I think one of the main things we need to focus on is making sure that our children know that they have a safe place and that they have people that they can turn to, that they have people that they can talk to, that they are appreciated within our school system, and that they have leaders that will advocate that for them and help them. We probably will never have enough resources, but we need to make sure that our students know that whatever we can do, we will do it to help their mental health and their overall safety and well-being.
Thank you. Next part of that question, how does this issue apply to staff well-being and retention? How should North Andover Public Schools support staff across the district? Mr. Dube.
Well, to make sure that we're properly addressing the needs of our staff, we should talk to our staff. I would meet with the individual teachers' unions and the schools. I would reach out to teachers directly, and I would always be open to any conversation with a teacher that would like to have any type of conversation with me regarding issues they believe the school committee could address. We need to make sure that our demands on the teachers are appropriate, and we also need to make sure that we're appropriately staffed, that we have sufficient staffing so that teachers are not overwhelmed, that classroom sizes are appropriate, et cetera. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brown.
So there's an old saying in business, right? Happy customers leads to a happy business. I think it's true in a school as well. I mean, you have to have happy, healthy teachers in order to have happy, healthy students. I would apply the same philosophy I suggested earlier. I would meet with all the stakeholders, assess where they are, analyze it, and then come up with a plan to address whatever needs there are. And hopefully we can use some of the same resources that are already in place. If we need more, we can get more. But I'm a very big believer in mental health is very important, and I think it's as important to the staff as it is to the students.
Thank you. Ms. Koenig.
Our teachers in North Andover are of vital importance. Without them, we can't accomplish the goals that we need to with the education of our children. We need to make sure we are listening to their needs and that we're addressing them as best that we can so that we can all work together to really put out the best education that our students can receive. With the teachers and the community have a common goal of doing what's best for our children and advocating for them, and we need to make sure that we are giving them support and know that we are fighting for them as well so that they can do their job the best that they can and know that they are appreciated by the community members in North Andover and all that they do for our schools.
Here's a question that may have a short answer or a longer answer from students. Yes, no, or maybe. Do you support students having homework? Mr. Brown.
Oh, yes. Most definitely. The homework, it's part of the deal, right? I think it's, actually, in my experience as an educator, I have experience in education as well. It is, it has to be applied intelligently, but homework is critical to cement the knowledge that you learn in the classroom, in my opinion.
Thank you. Ms. Koenig.
We expect a lot of our students. We really do, especially in today's day and age. They have a lot going on. We expect a lot of volunteer work. We expect extracurricular activities. We expect them to do well in school. There's a lot of pressure on our students. So just as I always advocate in my work for a nice work-life balance, our students also need a work-life balance because I feel like that is how they are going to perform at their best, and I'll advocate that. With that given, if a teacher feels that some homework is appropriate, I fully support the decisions of our teachers that they need to be able to best educate our children.
Thank you. Mr. Dube.
With apologies to my children, yes, I do believe that homework is necessary. As echoing some of the other members here, it needs to be made sure it's appropriate and able to achieve a school life balance, as it were, but absolutely.
Thank you. Next question from a resident. Diversity was also the topic of many questions from citizens and students alike. Students of color now comprise 29% of the population in North Andover Public Schools. As a school committee member, what steps would you take to ensure that the diversity of families' concerns are adequately addressed? Ms. Koenig.
Thank you. I think one of the most important things we can do is listen to the concerns. I think it's important to have uncomfortable conversations and get comfortable with uncomfortable conversations when it comes to diversity and people of color in our community. I think we need to make sure we're having conversations with our kids about race so that this doesn't become a taboo topic and they can become aware of any inequalities or differences in diversity in our community. And I think we also need to speak up. We need to speak up when we see any issues with diversity that are going on with our community, making sure that we are an inclusive and welcoming community and that we are advocating for the needs of every single one of our students and advocating for a diverse learning environment in which all children can thrive.
Thank you. Mr. Dube.
Hi, yes, it is very important that we maintain appropriate measures for all of our students. As it says on the sign, hate has no home here. We should never tolerate any sort of racism or racially motivated insults that go on. Recently, as we all know, or maybe we don't, there was an incident where a child student drew a swastika on a bathroom, and I believe it was Lawrence, one of our students, and we followed up by their bringing in a Holocaust survivor to speak to the student body about why that's really a bad thing to do. That said, we need to make sure that programs we have promote unity amongst our students rather than division, which sadly many of our policies are not doing when you look at things that I mentioned earlier in my opening speech. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brown.
So this is a very hot issue with me. I've experienced it myself. I have to say, the good news is we have a comprehensive non-discrimination policy in place. I'll be absolutely certain that that's adhered to if I'm elected. There's a school compliance officer. If necessary, if someone's uncomfortable, they have that resource to go to. And then, if they're not getting satisfaction there, I'd encourage them to meet with the principal, meet with the superintendent, and ultimately with the school committee. And I will pledge that I will always be available personally to hear concerns like that, because I believe they're very, very important.
Thank you. Next question from both residents and students. Sometimes the school committee considers the adoption of different curricular programs or areas of study, especially if it relates to budget line items. Through what lenses might you evaluate curricula, including books for the libraries and course offerings? Mr. Dube.
I would look to make sure we have a non-biased focus, making sure that the focus is actually on academic excellence and preparing our students to be productive members of society when they graduate. I would make sure that there's no real agenda in following our curriculum, and that we're promoting the highest level of academic achievement. For really, the best social justice program is a high-quality education. Thank you.
Ms. Koenig.
Thank you. We employ an educated staff. We have teachers who have gone to school for this. We have staff who have gone to school for this, who have evaluated educational processes and educational programs, and we need to trust them and rely on their expertise. We need to rely on the expertise of the state and the mandates that they have set out, and making sure that those are being followed, and that we're relying on the experts who have evaluated curriculum and making sure that we're following those standards to give our children the best educational experience possible.
Thank you. Mr. Brown.
Yes, I think we do indeed need to trust the experts that we've hired and have faith in their abilities to set a curriculum. But I think what's being asked is what's my opinion here. So I think we need to look at national and state standards and make sure that we're meeting those. Make sure we're being efficient, in terms of our budget, that we're using our money wisely, and study the gaps, and then make fill in whatever gaps we can. But I fundamentally agree. It is the reason that we hire the people we hire, and we need to have faith in them to do their jobs.
Okay, next question, also from citizens and students. Having well-balanced offerings in our schools was also a topic of many questions. Would you support having an arts director for the coordination of programs across the district? Ms. Koenig.
I am a big advocate of the arts. However, we still have to look at our budget, and if we can find ways to make it work, I would 100% support that. I think it is an important part of our students' process and development, and can be a great part of their education. I know it was a big part of my education. I know through participating in the arts, I learned a lot of different faceted areas. I learned a lot of history, and I learned a lot of working together and cooperation and civics. And I think an arts director would be amazing. And if we could work to find a way to budget that into our system without putting other programs at risk, I would advocate for that.
Thank you. Mr. Brown.
Yes, I concur. I think arts are also important to me, very much so. I believe that I like the idea of actually having a director across the district, and that's an interesting idea we might consider for other parts of our system, so that there's continuity between K through 12, and it's not disjointed between the schools. Not saying that it is, but one way to resolve that is to have someone overseeing the entire thing. I do feel like we could be doing a little bit more with that than we are, and I'm very much interested in seeing if, as Alissa said, if we can find ways within our budget to do it. I think it's very important.
Thank you. Mr. Dube.
My students have utilized the arts programs extensively at the schools, and it is very important to me. I have very much appreciated going to band concerts, plays, et cetera, that have been put on by the schools. I would be interested in seeing what the current administration or the current layout of the arts is in terms of putting a coordinator, if such coordination is already occurring. I know there's some excellent teachers involved in the arts programs, and if we need a director, it would be interesting to see how we could evolve that position. And, of course, getting within budget.
Thank you. Next question submitted by residents. hot topic in education today. What do you think about using artificial intelligence programs such as ChatGPT in schools? Do or should we have policies around these technologies? Mr. Brown.
So I'm a technologist, and but I have a healthy skepticism when it comes to artificial intelligence. ChatGPT, it's very interesting that that's brought up. I've tested that myself, and it's got a long way to go. So I would have a healthy skepticism towards including something like that without extensive study and consideration. I'm not saying it has no value. I'm saying that I think it's in its infancy and it's got a ways to go. And as I said, healthy skepticism for that.
Thank you. Mr. Dube.
Technology exists, and I am a computer programmer, so I'm fairly up on technology. Technology is always going to evolve, and we always have to adapt our educational policies to understand that. I think technology belongs in the classroom. However, things like ChatGPT, the concern is that students will utilize those programs to basically write their term papers for them and whatnot. And it's very difficult to, even if we have a policy, to make sure that that paper wasn't actually written. One can say, no, you can't use ChatGPT, but is the kid going to go, oh yeah, I used an AI program to develop this? No. So it's just going to fall upon teachers and administrators to make sure that students are doing the work that they're supposed to be doing, and that within the classroom we have appropriate testing where kids don't have access to technology to make sure that there doesn't seem to be inconsistencies between what they're bringing home, what they're bringing in from home versus what they're actually capable of doing within the classroom. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Koenig.
So to answer the question, yes, I think we absolutely should have policies. I actually am an educator myself. I teach a legal research and writing course at a local law school to law students. And this is actually a policy that we recently implemented in the school as well, to prevent any type of plagiarisms and allowing children to be, or the students, or these are adults, to be able to think for themselves. And I think these policies need to stand in our schools as well, for supporting individualized thinking, for students to be able to evaluate situations on their own, whatever subject that they're working on, and really working on critical thinking skills. So although I am an advocate of technology, I'm also an advocate that our students really need to be cautious with it, that they need to be trained around it, and that we should have policies around it to make sure that it is being used in a responsible manner.
Thank you. This will be our final question before we go to closing statements, submitted by both residents and students. How could the district do a better job of finding, fostering, and supporting support staff, like substitute teachers, bus drivers, lunch and recess monitors, etc.? Mr. Dube.
This is very much a hot topic because I know that we have a dearth of those positions. Those positions will stay open. Sadly, there's low pay is, I think, a major force behind that. I do know that many times we can't find a sub when we need one. And really it's economics. So we have to figure out how we can attract people with better compensation while being cognizant of budget. And perhaps that's something that we need to focus on because we absolutely need those positions filled.
Thank you. Mr. Brown.
Well, I think to add to what Kevin said, I think that we could maybe do a better job of marketing those positions than we do. I feel like we're a little bit less organized than we could be about staffing there. I also think we could try a different approach, maybe to some job sharing or job combinations where people are not just doing one thing, being a little bit more efficient, to try to cover the needs that are there. But that is that's definitely a big need that needs attention, and we may need to again examine the budget a little bit more carefully and see if we can find ways to increase the pay a little bit.
Thank you. Ms. Koenig.
I believe our support staff is a critical component to our schools. I think they're needed in several different areas, and I think that our current teachers and staff appreciate them. I believe that we need to find better ways to budget these into our school budget. I think it is a funding issue, and we need to consistently be looking for areas and where we can better fund them, because they are a critical component and so important. And I see that as my perspective as a parent and children who've gone through the high school and one in the elementary school, of what a critical role that they play, whether it be in the morning, whether it be at lunch, during recess, during after school care, during teacher support services. They play a vital role, and I think they need to feel important, they need to feel appreciated, and we need to evaluate the best ways to be able to fund them, to bring them into our schools.
Thank you. And that does bring us to time for closing statements. So each of you will have 1 minute. Ms. Koenig.
Thank you. I want to thank the League of Women Voters and North Andover CAM for giving all the candidates the opportunity to voice their concerns, to voice their opinions, and to voice why they feel they are the best candidate. I think you've seen tonight that I really do have the advocacy skills and unique perspective as a parent to really work towards making our school system better, to advocate for our students, and to fight for their overall well-being and needs. We have some tough issues that are facing our schools. We have issues over people of color, over gender identity, over so many issues, and our children need to feel supported. They need to feel appreciated. They need to feel like there are people fighting on their side. I will be that advocate. I have the perspective as a parent to be able to fight for them, to advocate for them, and I will work for them all along the way. I believe that with my advocacy and with the accountability that Dave Brown brings to the table, we could have a really strong, well-rounded school committee that could progress and make things move forward. And that's what we need to do for our school committees. So I hope that I have earned your vote and that you will vote for me on March 28th.
Thank you. Mr. Dube.
I'd like to thank everyone for being here. I hope you've all enjoyed the debate. In their opening statements, both of my opponents, I believe, mentioned culture wars and that we shouldn't be fighting them. I absolutely agree. Our schools should not be promoting the current ideologies in today's culture wars, but they are. My platform is simple: academic excellence for all of our students, putting parents and legal guardians first in children's education, transparency in education for all stakeholders, an end to radical ideology in our schools, and fiscal responsibility. North Andover is a terrific town, and we have a great school community. I wish to continue to build upon those things that make it great, fix those that need to be addressed, and guide the school department on the best path to the future. For more information on my campaign, please visit electdube.com and vote Kevin Dube for school committee on March 28th. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, League of Women Voters, for this forum tonight. I think you've heard the different approaches that we're going to take to the school committee role at the table here. Remember, accountability really matters, and along with it, we transparency in how we operate, insistence on continuous performance improvement. Schools are the heart and the soul of our community. It's a basic civil right to educate our children the best that we possibly can. The schools and school committee are no place for political or ideological agendas. I think Alissa, Koenig, and I will bring a complementary approach to the committee. I know we will work well together. We'll bring professional management skills, negotiating expertise, and a multi-year span of parental perspective that each of us has. I pledge to be absolutely accountable, and I'll demand that chain of accountability throughout the system. I'll be looking for continuous improvement in the district's performance. Strong leadership is vital, particularly now, and I will bring that, and I expect to be held accountable. I'll always act in good faith and follow best practices, and I respectfully ask for your vote for school committee, Dave Brown for school committee on March 28th. Thank you.
There's no rebuttal for closing statements. Thank you very much again to all of our candidates and to all our volunteers who helped organize and run tonight's event. Most importantly, remember to get informed and vote on Tuesday, March 28th at the North Andover High School. The polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Thank you and good evening. Your vote is your voice. Thank you.